It takes a lot of confidence for a relatively new company, in this case RHA, to announce a flagship product. So what is a flagship product? A flagship product is a representation of the very essence of the company, their values and their beliefs and their latest kind of technologies channeled into one specific product. Well, let's take a look to see if they've succeeded with the T10i's. Before we begin this review, I want to thank my friend Andrew for sending his personal pair of T10i's for me to take a listen to. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Andrew. And I'll also be putting the link in the description below, or various links. The first link of which is going to be my full in-depth written review over on HeadFi, which goes into more detailed kind of analysis about these earphones that's more comprehensive than what this video can cover. And I'll also put links to where you can find out more information about these T10i's and various other threads as well. And I'll also be putting annotations in my left here, which is I think to your right, of my review of the RHA T10i's, which is the successor or the recent release from RHA. And I'll also be putting another annotation to my right or your left to my comparison between the T10i's and the T20i's, so you can kind of get a feel of what the previous and the current flagship earphone from RHA has to offer you. In terms of build quality, the T10i's are simply superb. They have an injection molded stainless steel housing which feels very robust, very heavy duty, and very sturdy. So I feel I can run over this earphone with my bike and they can still keep on ticking. And these earphones are just basically made for the most rigorous kind of activities that you can put them through, and they'll last you a very, very long time. Aside from the earpieces themselves, they also have a very flexible memory wire, so you can adjust this to whatever your ear orientation is. And the bottom, the top half of the cable on the right side has iOS remote. This is the iOS version. You can also get the non-Apple certified version. Has a very nice tactility in terms of the buttons, and a very good mic as well. That's made out of metal overall. The cable itself is very sturdy and very thick overall. This doesn't feel like the cable that you see on normally earphones. This feels like the cable you see on traditionally really high quality headphones overall. Very thick, very, very strong, very well constructed. The Y-shaped split here, again, is fully metal here as well, with a cable cinch here, very nicely made. Bottom half of this cable, again, it's very, very thick, and I feel like I can actually use this cable as a harness for my bikes when I'm going on road trips and such, so it feels that reassuring overall. And it also features a straight angle jack, which is not my favorite, but it is very well relieved with this spring-loaded strain relief. However, I think RHA would be better off implementing a more compact L-shaped connector, because it's just a little bit more feasible for portable scenarios. In terms of comfort, the RHA T10i's have a sort of organic kind of shape to it, which is really conducive and really kind of easy to fit into your ear. So they fit around your ear like so, where you wrap the cable over your ear. They also have a memory wire that's easily adjustable and very flexible, so you can reform them as many times as you like to until they are comfortable to your ears. And because of the organic shape, it just really kind of conforms to your ear anatomy, which makes them a very comfortable experience overall. My only quibble in terms of the comfort is the fact that I wish that the nozzle would be angled slightly more 45-degree, at least to my ears, to help kind of take the comfort to another level. But overall, I'm very satisfied with the comfort. Now going into isolation, I found that the isolation on the RHA T10i's to be above average. They do have a large vent at the front face of the earpieces here. However, I didn't think that this really hindered the isolation much at all. So this is a very kind of practical earphone that you can kind of use in a bunch of different scenarios and situations, at home, on the bus, in the mall and such. I wouldn't really recommend them if you're going to be cycling around with these earphones, because they do take away from some of the situational awareness around you. So when you're cycling, you need to hear the cars and people around you for safety reasons, so you don't get run over. But aside from that, I think that the T10i's are very good in that regard. Now, in terms of sound, this is where the T10i's really kind of fell out of place with me, because they have a sound signature I think is a little, it's not well integrated, it's a little confusing, it's a little discombobulated. So it has, first and foremost, a really heavy and a really massive bass hump, with a dark treble. So this makes this earphone a rather congested sounding earphone in general. Now, just a disclaimer, I like my bass. I'm no bass head though, but I do like my bass. But I think that the T10i's take the bass too far, because the bass here is very much emphasized in the mid bass, which does bleed into the mid range as well. The bass here is very well dominant, very low grunt in terms of the bass. It's a loose bass, but the bass is not well textured. All my findings here are just a summation of all the different filters. The bass filter, which is the bassiest filter, obviously. The reference filter for the most balanced kind of sound signature of the bunch, and then the treble filter, which is the most exciting, I guess you could say, the bunch. And I did find that even with the treble filter, the bass was still far too dominant, and it was too distracting and kind of drony for when listening to these earphones, even when you're listening to like electronic music and stuff where the bass is like a lot more emphasized. It just kind of masks everything else. So going into the mid-range here, the mid-range here has sounds unnatural to me. It's very recessed. It sounds like someone is singing from the back row. And there's a very large dip in the upper mid-range, which makes female vocals sound rather very thin and very unnatural again. So I'm not a fan of that. And the treble here is emphasized in the lower treble. It goes into a really dramatic spike. The treble, and it makes the treble sound very metallic and sort of harsh sounding. But overall, the treble is rolled off, so it's not expansive or airy in any of that sense. My favorite filter of the bunch was the treble filter, surprisingly enough, even though it did make them more harsh, but it did like take away with some of that bass. And my second filter will probably be the reference filter, which is probably the most, I guess, likable of the bunch, because it's still far too bassy for me, but it rolls off the treble, which makes it a little bit more easier on the ears. And the bass filter, I spent the least time with, because it was just far too bassy for me, and it made everything very congested and kind of not like kind of mushy, I guess you could say. So overall, for a $200 flagship earphone, in terms of sound anyway, I'm actually quite disappointed with the RHA T10i's. So in conclusion, although the T10i's hit the mark in terms of having a plethora of accessories and a very robust build quality and a very attractive design overall, and it has a good comfort and good isolation, the sound is the biggest drawback, and I think that that alone is enough to kind of make me not recommend the T10i's. I suggest you guys check out the T20s, which is basically a revision of the T10s. And I like that earphone so much more. I have the review on that in the annotation above my finger here, so you can check that out. Definitely like and subscribe to this video and channel if it helped you guys out. I'm eager to read your comments and feedbacks and such in the comments below. And as always, follow me Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and such. But until then, oh yeah, and check out my other reviews, and I'll put the links in the annotation here, 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 and here. But until then, I will see you guys in the next video.